6 months later, my life looked completely different. No grand halls, no crowds, no noise, just peace. I stood on the wooden deck of a small lakeside cabin, watching the sunrise stretch across the water. The air was quiet, calm, the kind of calm I hadn't felt in decades. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying anything, not expectations, not responsibility, not pain, just myself. The cabin wasn't big. 2 rooms, simple furniture, but it was mine, and that made it enough. I took a sip of coffee and looked out at the lake. A message buzzed on my phone. It was from Richardson. Poker tonight. Don't be late. I smiled slightly. Funny how life works. The man I once carried out of battlefield was now one of the few people I could truly call a friend. We met often, talked about everything, or sometimes nothing at all. Another vibration. This time, a different name. My son. I stared at the screen for a long moment before opening it. Hey, Dad, I got promoted today. Assistant manager. I read it twice. Assistant manager. 6 months ago, that title would have meant nothing to him. Now, it meant everything. It meant effort, growth, change. I typed slowly. Proud of you. 3 simple words. But they carried more truth than anything I'd said in years. A reply came almost instantly. Thanks, Dad. That was it. No long message. No excuses. Just acknowledgement. And somehow, that was enough. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes for a moment. Things weren't fixed. Not completely. Maybe they never would be. But something had changed. Not just in him. In me too. For the first time, I wasn't trying to prove anything. Not to him. Not to anyone. I had nothing left to prove. Another message came through. Would you like to meet for coffee sometime? I stared at it. Thought about everything that had happened. The anger. The pain. The distance. Then I looked around. At the quiet lake. At the life I had built for myself. And I realized something important. I didn't need anything from him anymore. Not approval. Not recognition. Not even an apology. But that didn't mean I had to close the door. I typed a simple reply. Saturday, 10 a.m. A pause. Then his response appeared. I'll be there. I set the phone down and looked out at the water again. The sun had risen higher now. The world felt warmer, lighter, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt whole. Not because someone else finally understood me, but because I finally understood myself. Sometimes the biggest victory in life isn't fixing what's broken. It's realizing you're still complete without it. And in that moment, I knew something for sure. Whatever happened next, I'd be ready for it. The silence in the room felt suffocating. No music, no laughter, no celebration. Just hundreds of people standing there, watching a man's life fall apart in real time. My son stood frozen, his face pale, his confidence completely gone. What do you mean disappear? He asked, his voice barely steady. Richardson didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. It means, he said calmly, everything you thought you built was never truly yours. The words hit harder than any slap. Guests started whispering again, but this time it wasn't curiosity. It was judgment, the kind that follows scandal, the kind that destroys reputations overnight. My son shook his head, trying to process it. No, you can't just take it all away. Richardson tilted his head slightly. I'm not taking anything away, he replied. I'm simply removing what was never yours to begin with. That sentence broke something inside him. I could see it. His shoulders dropped. His breathing changed. The reality finally started sinking in. My company, he whispered. My employees, what happened to them? That question surprised me. For the first time that night, he wasn't thinking about himself. Richardson noticed it too. He paused for a moment before answering. They won't suffer, he said. They'll be absorbed. Their job protected. Their work will continue. My son let out a shaky breath. And me? That question, that one carried everything. Fear, pride, desperation. Richardson looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke. You have 2 choices. The entire room seemed to lean in. First, he continued, I shut everything down. You walk away with nothing but whatever money you've already taken. My son swallowed hard. And the second? Richardson's voice turned colder. You stay, but not as a CEO. A pause. You start from the bottom. My son blinked. What? You work like everyone else, Richardson said. No privileges. No special treatment. You earn your place. The words landed like a final verdict. You'll answer to someone else, he added. You'll learn what real work feels like. My son looked completely lost now. This wasn't the world he knew. He had always been in control, always been the one giving orders. Now, he was being told to follow them. That's nothing, his wife said suddenly, stepping forward. Her voice trembled. We have a house, bills a lifestyle. Then you'll adjust, Richardson cut in. Cold, final. I watched everything unfold, but strangely I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge, just emptiness. 32 years of love, sacrifice, hope, reduced to this moment. My son turned to me. Dad, what should I do? That question hit me harder than anything else that night, because it was the first time in years he had actually asked for my guidance. I looked at him, really looked at him, not as the man he became, but as the boy I raised. And I answered honestly, if it were me, I'd start over. He stared at me. From the bottom? I nodded. That's the only way you'll ever know what any of this is really worth. He lowered his head. For a moment, he didn't speak. Then slowly, he nodded. I'll take the second option. The room stayed silent. But something had changed. Not outside. Inside him. And maybe, for the first time, he was finally beginning to understand. My son's voice came out quieter this time. Why didn't you ever tell me? I didn't answer right away, because the truth wasn't simple. Before I could speak, Richardson stepped in again. There's more, he said. My stomach tightened. I turned to him. Jimmy, but he shook his head. It's time. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. I've been waiting a long time to say this, he added. My son looked confused. What are you talking about? Richardson's expression turned cold again. I owe your father my life, he said, and I pay my debts. Something about the way he said it made my chest feel tight. For years, he continued, I made sure his family never struggled. I blinked. What? But he kept going. Every opportunity you got, he said, looking directly at my son, came through me. My son's face went pale. That's not true. It is, Richardson replied calmly. Your first major investor? Connected to me. Your biggest contracts? Approved because of me. Your company's growth? He paused, built on doors I opened. The room erupted into whispers. My son shook his head. No, I built everything myself. Richardson stepped closer. No, you didn't. Each word landed like a hammer. I made sure you succeeded, he said. Not because of you. He pointed toward me. Because of him. I felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. All those years, all those moments I watched my son succeed, thinking he did it all on his own. My son looked like the ground had disappeared beneath him. You're lying, he whispered. I wish I was, Richardson said quietly. I stayed in the shadows for one reason. He glanced at me. Because your father never asked for anything. My chest tightened. I never even knew. Not once. He never tried to use what he did, Richardson continued. Never tried to benefit from it. My son's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. That's the problem, Richardson replied sharply. You never cared enough to know. That hit harder than anything, even harder than the punch. The room was silent again. But now, it wasn't shock. It was judgment. My son looked at me, tears running down his face. Dad, I swear, I didn't know. I looked at him, at the man he had become, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt something else. Distance. I believe you, I said quietly, and somehow that made it worse. Please, he said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. because sorry, couldn't fix this. Not tonight. Not like this. Richardson stepped forward one last time. And now, he said, we deal with the consequences. My son froze. What does that mean? Richardson looked him dead in the eyes. It means everything you built. A pause. Is about to disappear. The room went completely still, and I realized this wasn't over. Not even close. The man didn't let go of my son's wrist. Instead, he looked around the room, making sure everyone was listening. Then he spoke. Your father is not what you think he is. My son frowned. I know exactly who he is, he said. He's just... No, the man cut him off. You don't. The air felt heavy. Every single guest was watching now. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to say, it doesn't matter, just let it go. But something inside me, something I had buried for years, stayed silent. My name is James Richardson, the man said calmly. A few people in the crowd gasped. Some recognized the name. My son froze. Of course he knew it. Everyone in his world did. But I wasn't looking at my son. I was staring at the man, at his eyes, at the way he stood. And suddenly, it hit me. A memory, a battlefield, a young soldier, barely more than a boy. Jimmy? I whispered. The man turned to me, and for the first time, his expression softened. Good to see you, Sarge. The nickname hit me like a wave. Sarge, that's what they used to call me. The men who trusted me to bring them home. The ones who looked at me like I had all the answers. My son looked between us, confused. You know each other? Richardson didn't look at him. Your father saved my life, he said. The room went silent again. And then he continued. Not just mine. He took a step forward. He saved 23 lives that day. I felt my chest tighten. I hadn't spoken about that day in years. I didn't want to remember it. But now, there was no stopping it. It was supposed to be a simple mission, Richardson continued. Routine patrol, in and out. He shook his head slightly. It wasn't. I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was back there, dust in the air, gunfire echoing through the hills, men shouting, men falling. We walked straight into an ambush, he said. Surrounded, outnumbered, no backup. My son was listening now, really listening, for the first time in his life. Half of us were down in seconds, Richardson said quietly. We were trapped. His voice dropped. We were going to die there. The room was completely still. No one moved. No one spoke. That's when your father stood up. I could hear it again. The chaos. The fear. The moment I realized, if I didn't act, we were all dead. He stood up in the middle of gunfire, Richardson said, his voice filled with something deeper now, and he took control. I remembered shouting orders, dragging men to cover, firing back, not thinking about myself, only about them. He organized us, Richardson continued, got us moving, got us fighting. My son's breathing had changed, slower, heavier. He carried the wounded, Richardson said, and when I couldn't walk, he paused, then looked directly at my son. He carried me. The memory hit hard, the weight on my shoulders, the blood, the sound of bullets flying past. He ran through enemy fire to get me out, Richardson said. He should have died that day. I shook my head slightly. No one was getting left behind. I muttered. Richardson gave a small nod. That's who he is. Silence filled the room again, but this time it felt different, heavier, respectful. My son stared at me, really stared, like he was seeing me for the first time. And maybe he was. Don't touch him. The voice cut through the room like a command. Deep, calm, dangerous. Everyone turned. A tall man in a dark suit stepped forward. His presence alone made people move aside. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. He simply walked like he already controlled the situation. Before anyone could react, he grabbed my son's wrist midair. Firm, unshakable. My son tried to pull away. He couldn't. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, the man said, quietly, but the entire room heard it. Silence fell instantly. Even the music had stopped. My son forced a laugh. Do you even know who I am? The man didn't blink. I know exactly who you are. Then he paused. But I don't think you know who he is. Something tightened in my chest, because I knew the truth. My son didn't know me. Not really. I never told him everything. Not about the missions. Not about the men who didn't come back. Not about the choices that still kept me awake at night. I thought staying quiet was the right thing. I thought it made me humble. But maybe it just made me invisible. The man looked at me. For a brief second, there was recognition in his eyes. Respect. Then he turned back to my son. Apologize, he said. My son scoffed. You got to be joking. The man leaned slightly closer. And you've got no idea how serious I am. Something in his voice changed the air. Guests began whispering. Phones came out. People started recording. For the first time, my son looked uncertain. I said, let go. He snapped. The man didn't move. Instead, he spoke again. Your father didn't just serve. A pause. He saved lives. The room went completely silent. I closed my eyes for a moment because I knew what was coming next. The truth. A truth I had buried for years. A truth that was about to change everything. And once it came out, there would be no going back. At my son's wedding, he leaned close to me and whispered, Take those medals off, you're embarrassing me. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. When I refused, he hit me right there in front of hundreds of guests. And just when security started moving toward me, a man stepped forward, grabbed my son's wrist, and said something that made the entire room go silent. Stay with me till the end, and tell me where you're watching from, because what happened that night changed everything. I'm 61 years old. I've lived through war. Real war. The kind where the air smells like dust, metal, and fear. The kind where not everyone makes it back. I survived things most people can't even imagine, but nothing prepared me for what my own son did to me that night. The wedding was grand. Crystal lights hanging above. Marble floors shining under expensive shoes. People laughing, drinking, celebrating. Powerful people, wealthy people. And there I was, standing quietly near the corner, wearing my formal military uniform. The same uniform I wore on the proudest days of my life. The medals on my chest weren't decoration. They were memories, sacrifices, scars that never fully healed. I adjusted my collar, took a breath, and then I heard his voice. Dad, what are you wearing? I turned and saw my son walking toward me. His face wasn't happy. It wasn't emotional. It was cold. Behind him, his new bride watched silently. It's my formal uniform, I said calmly. He shook his head immediately. No, this is my wedding, not some army show. People around us began to notice. Conversation slowed. Eyes turned toward us. I thought you'd be proud, I said quietly. Proud, he replied with a short laugh. Look around you. These people are investors, executives, people who matter. Then he looked at my chest, at those things. Those things, that's what he called them. Each medal had a story behind it. A life saved, a moment survived, a decision made under fire. But to him, they meant nothing. You're making me look small, he said. I built everything here. My reputation, my success. He stepped closer, and I won't let you ruin it. His words hit deeper than anything, not because they were loud, but because they came from him. I've always been proud of you, I told him. I just hoped maybe you'd be proud of me too. He laughed again. Cold, distant. Proud of what? You're stuck in the past. Nobody cares about those old stories anymore. In that moment, I realized something painful. He didn't misunderstand me. He never even tried to know me. Take them off, he said, or I'll have you removed. Hundreds of guests, watching, waiting, judging, and I answered with one word. No. His expression changed instantly, not just anger, disrespect. You're unbelievable, he muttered. You can't stand that I made something of myself without you. Without me. I remembered the long nights I worked extra shifts, just so he could study without worry. The opportunities one gave up just to be there for him. And standing there, none of it mattered. "You're nothing," he said quietly, "and I'm done pretending otherwise." Then it happened. He raised his hand and punched me. The sound echoed across the hall. Sharp, loud. I stumbled backward. I could taste blood. Gasps filled the room. But all I could see was my son, a stranger, wearing his face. "Get him out of here," he said, like I was nobody, like I didn't belong. 2 security guards started walking toward me. And that's when everything changed.